people. Que pasa, sakpa, say what they do. Welcome to Crime Time News, where the difference is in the meds. Call it news with a buzz. This one is called The Sad Reality in Jamaica. If you are a popo, if you are a politician, if you are rich, the chances of you getting convicted, the chance of you getting arrested, sentenced, and even was convicted is very minimal. Even if you are convicted, you're going to beat it on some sorts of technicality because of some sorts of error that was made by the prosecution. Now, people, I am speaking about a case that was very disturbing when it occurred back in 2012. Because a 16-year-old, she was 16 at the time she met her demise. Her name is VANESSA Kirkland. VANESSA Kirkland was a student of Immaculate Conception High School at the time in which she lost her life. Based on the Popo report, she was in a vehicle with a couple other occupants in a place called Norman Drive in that vehicle. That vehicle was on the Popo radar for a little while for a robbery or a series of robbery. Based on what the Popo said, when they intercepted the vehicle, one of its occupants came out and blazed up all sorts of can in the vehicle after the Popo, and of course, you know the script. The Popo took evasive action. The Popo respond accordingly after the smoke clear. This lady, this young girl, she was hit up. She lost her life. Don't remember if she DIED on the spot or she was pronounced at the place of recovery. However, she did not make it. This was in 2012, like I said before. The case kind of dragged on. It went to courts, and in 2019, the officers, 3 officers at the time, they were sentenced. They were sentenced to 14 years and 5 months. Don't quote me. However, about 24 hours ago, the appellate courts under a one, Patrick Brooks, Justice Patrick Brooks, he said that the case was won on an appeal. The lawyers were Peter Champagny amongst other bigwig lawyers. The judge said that based on the fact that the accused, the 3 officers, were freed of MURDER, the judge made some sorts of error when he gave instruction at the time of the case, at the time of sentence. So therefore, these people will beat this case on some sorts of technicality. Now, people, because of the circumstances of the case, it was obvious that at best for the Popo it was controversial. That means that even though the Popo claimed that one of the occupants came out, alighted out of the vehicle and blazed up some can for them, and then blaze up some can back in direction of that person. And people, I remember this case as if it was yesterday because of the fact that, you know that Immaculate Conception is one of those preppy school. So therefore, their kids or students are never usually associated with any sorts of conflict because people are going to think, say, uptown. Actually, this girl was actually from the downtown area. I remember distinctly when looking at that vehicle and saw that there were multiple rounds all over the vehicle. If people survive in that vehicle, they would have had to change their name to Grace because it would have been amazing. Don't remember how many persons got conned up. I know specifically that young girl lost her life. The point that I am trying to make is the fact that this case went to courts in front of a jury, and even if it was controversial, they got a conviction based for manslaughter. Now, people, like me say, based on what the appellate judges, 3 of them, the person in charge, Mr. Brooks, Patrick Brooks, said that the judge in the case made some sorts of an error or a couple of errors, big errors, in when the people did not get convicted for murder. Instead, they were convicted of manslaughter. Now, people, you and I do not need to be Perry Mason. We don't have to be any sorts of top lawyer, top attorney, barrister, whatever you want to call it. Certain things are just common sense. If you even watch CNN for a couple of hours, you would have known that most cases, high-profile cases, especially when it pertains to related takeaway, murder, or whichever one them want to term it, usually they are going to go for manslaughter instead of first degree takeaway, murder. It only makes common sense, and it is because it is easier to get some sorts of conviction. Yes, you might feel as if the popo them heard, the popo them were trigger happy. However, in most cases, the DA, the prosecutor, is going to either seek murder or manslaughter. So therefore, what the lawyer Peter Champagne and the rest of the bigwigs are saying, they should have been charged for manslaughter instead of for murder, and then the judge instructing the jury that, listen, if you don't think that it is to the level of murder, then you can say manslaughter. I hope I am not confusing you. So therefore, in my estimation or opinion, the prosecutor made an error when they decided to go for the gusto, go for the big charge. They should have concentrated, focused on just the smaller charge, even though they thought that these people were trigger happy. So people, that is the error, and that is why I say, listen, if you are a popo, if you are a politician, if you are rich, such as the SSL, more than likely, even if you get convicted, you will never, well, I'm not going to say you will never see a day in a court, but eventually you are going to beat it on some sorts of technicality, because people, remember me said that this is the Body Club, and people, we have gotten a whole bunch of examples why it is true, why it is so. Here is the most disturbing thing about the whole thing now. And this is what we see that is going on in Jamaica. What these little young hot girls that love BAD man company, like they're on the Don, in a some sort of relationship with the Don. Them licky, and people, I am not going to say that that is the case as it pertains to this young girl. So therefore, here's where the problem comes in from start. Whenever you are in any sort of vehicle, and people, I remember specifically when this case happened or this incident occurred, may I say to myself, I wonder if this was some sort of taxi. That means that if it's a cab and then pull over a cab because you know so the popo and the cabman them live like puss and dog, and then they might chase the cab, and then the people might try avoid the popo, and then the popo them blaze up some can, they would have been DEAD wrong, meaning the popo. However, people, here is a difference in this case. The vehicle in which the occupants were in, including Vanessa Kirkland, it was on the popo radar for some sorts of robbery. Now, people, can I validate or verify that this was indeed so? Because obviously there was some sorts of conviction. So therefore, maybe the jury did not buy the popo side of the story. That is also possible. Maybe the jury did not buy the side of the story that one of the occupants came out and blazed up any sort of can upon the popo, and that was when the popo them retaliated. So therefore, me just say, obviously the jury saw something wrong that these popo did, because remember, the popo, they were on their job, they were doing their duty, and if the car in a some sorts of robbery, when them see the car, them are going to act differently than if it was just a typical or a normal traffic stop. So therefore, them are going to act accordingly. And even worse, if, as they say, one of the person alighted out of the vehicle and start blaze up all sorts of can. People, usually in cases like this, if it is very controversial, the popo are always going to get the benefit of the doubt. So therefore, whenever you see there was any sorts of conviction, it tells you that there must have been some sorts of overwhelming evidence. However, people, again, like me say, once the vehicle in question that the popo con up was on the radar for some sorts of robbery, it tells that the popo had some sorts of motive to pretty much pull over this vehicle. And if people are robbing, more than likely them have some sorts of tool. So therefore, if these officers got conviction and got sentenced to 14.5 years, it tells you that the story was not straight. The jury did not believe. There were a whole bunch of questions. It was overwhelming that the evidence was against the popo. So people, the sad thing is that, like me say, me no know the circumstance. Me just a go by what the jury say. Me just a go by the information that was out there. If this young girl was in the company of some bad man, some thief, some robber, and she lose her life, that is what is going to happen 99.9% of the time. So therefore, don't start no ish. Don't entangle in any sort of dirty bungle. If you not sit down under any sort of foul cub, them can SHIT pan you. So therefore, let this be a notice. Let this be a warning to all you other young girls out there that like bad man company, bad man representation, like things the easy way, licky. It is going to cost your life. Easy come, easy go. That pertains to your life and your freedom. However, on a truthful note, it is sad to see that a case goes to courts and then these people beat it. Not on the fact that if the evidence was overwhelming for innocent and them walk, if the evidence was overwhelming for guilty and they were found guilty, the fact that these people always seem to, by some strange coincidence, go to court and the prosecution or the judge always make some sorts of error that is always going to be in their favor. People, if people forget justice, they deserve to get justice. If them wrong, them wrong. If them a bad company or in a bad company and them get arrested, lock up and lose them life, it is understandable. However, when people beat stuff pan a technicality because of prosecutorial or judge misconduct, it is very disturbing. So if you're guilty, you feel fine guilty, you do the crime, you do the crime, do the time. If you're innocent, you must walk. Not because of technicality, not because of not the evidence or the facts of the case, because somebody or some people erred. People, that is very disturbing. And we've realized that this is a very disturbing trend. Like we say, 99.99% of the time, if popo, politician, rich people get locked up, they are going to beat the case upon some sorts of technicality. More than likely, they are going to walk free, even if they are guilty as sin. So therefore, don't find yourself in circumstances in which you are going to give these people a leeway, give them some sort of excuse, so therefore that technicality can be used against you. Point blank and period. So anyways, people, thanks once again for checking out my video. If you appreciate videos like these, please show your appreciation by liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing to my channel. That is how YouTube promotes videos like these to like-minded, sensible persons like yourself. Bless up.